Welcome to Symplicity Conversations, the podcast where business, culture, and community come together to inspire and empower. I'm your host, Catherine Ripley. Each week, we'll explore meaningful conversations about how today's business landscape is shaped by innovation, relationships, and the people behind the progress. From actionable insights and stories from industry leaders to topics like customer experience, fostering strong business relationships, and the role of automation, we've got you covered. Whether you're an entrepreneur navigating growth, a leader focused on building lasting connections, or someone interested in how culture and community drive success, Symplicity Conversations is here to guide you. If you're ready to turn challenges into opportunities and make meaningful strides in your business and community, subscribe now and join the conversation. Get ready to simplify complexity and make an impact with Symplicity Conversations. Welcome to Symplicity Conversations, where we explore the intersection of business, leadership, and technology. Today, I'm joined by Alicia Carlson, Channel Account Manager, and Camille Widme, Vice President of Customer Success at Blue Team Alpha. We'll unpack how Blue Team Alpha is helping organizations stay ahead of cyber threats and what the future holds for cybersecurity in the rapidly evolving world. Symplicity Insights, our famous quote today, is so applicable. There are only two types of companies, those that have been hacked and those that will be, by Robert Mueller, former FBI director. And I think this is so applicable because I say that to people all the time. It's not if you'll be hacked, it's when you will be. And in fact, I think the last statistic that I saw was that the dwell time of a bad actor in a network was 99 days.
Yeah.
Crazy.
They're there forever.
Thank you guys so much for being here today. I'm really excited about this conversation. And just side note, I'm kind of loving that we're all female because our industry is very much male dominated, especially on the security side of things. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely. Yeah. Mm-hmm. We did that on purpose here too.
We
certainly have some more technical people that could have been joining us today, but we wanted to come and talk with you.
That's okay. But be sure to subscribe to Symplicity Conversations for more conversations with leaders who are writing bold new chapters in the business and community. You can follow us on LinkedIn for updates and behind-the-scenes content. Subscribe to YouTube for full episodes and visit thesimplepodcast.com to learn more about our guests and their work. So let's start with kind of an overview of Blue Team Alpha, your mission, the service you offer, and those who you serve.
Yeah, I can start with that. So Blue Team Alpha, we are a full service cybersecurity company, but really specializing in the incident response space. So that is how we got the foothold in the security industry, and that is still really our bread and butter. But we use a lot of that information that we have from those incidents to work more proactively with companies as well. Really working to bring them offensive services, pen testing, managed SOC services, and then we do advisory services too. So trying not to have to be there just on the worst professional day of people's lives, trying to work with them proactively before that happens or to make sure it doesn't happen, I guess.
Right. Yeah, I've heard you say that before. I love that.
Yeah.
The worst professional day of their career. That's so true. But how can you be proactive? Especially, we try to do that in other parts of the technology space, but cybersecurity, if you can be proactive and be ready, because it's still going to happen. Even when you're proactive, it's still going to happen, but you're going to be more prepared. And it's almost like you have a plan to execute when you do have a situation like that. So let's talk a little bit about Blue Team Alpha and the founding of it and the evolution of it, Camille.
Yeah, absolutely. So Joe Kingland is our founder and managing partner. He's also our CEO with the company. And Joe is amazing. When he got started, he actually started with like a portfolio of our companies, but his mission in general, he was working for a larger company and he was meant to protect their business, right? But it was an enterprise level. So he's seeing these quotes come in and they are crazy priced is really what it was for like sock quotes. And he's sitting there going, he grew up in a small town in Iowa. So he's used to like those small town businesses and just like getting it and understanding. And so he's sitting there wondering, how are these small and medium-sized businesses protecting themselves? Like, how are they affording it? There's no way for them to, or even the knowledge for them to have of it. And that's when he really got into Blue Team Alpha and wanting to protect these companies that can't protect themselves and really be that voice for them and provide them an affordable opportunity that he could have to do that. And so when he got into it and actually got started with it, there was a couple people that started with him that he had done consulting business with, etc. But he's kind of a unique individual too. He doesn't only have the tech side to him, he also has like an actual sales mentality, people first mentality, company first, a lot of compassion behind like what he does. So when he started Blue Team Alpha, the name actually came specifically from bad actors that come into environments. They're usually called a red team. And that's usually, when they go in TAC, whenever we do pen tests, it's our red teams that will go out and do it. But blue team's the good guys. Those are the ones that are going to actually protect those companies that are getting attacked by the bad guys. And that's where we came up with Blue Team Alpha. And it's behind everything that we do with who we hire too. We look a lot about our core values and who can fit into it. And compassion's one, integrity is really big in there too. And everybody that comes in has to match that. And when he founded us and really got in with these companies, he had started, I want to say in 2018 is when we initially got started with Blue Team Alpha specifically. And Joe had really partnered with, you can't really just go Google like an incident response team, right? Like if you're already breached or attacked, you want somebody that that you like, and that you trust. And usually how you find those people is probably through your MSP or somebody else that you've heard have gone through a breach before. And so Joe recognized that right away, and he uses relationships with our MSP partners that we have that are local, is how we initially started, so that we got to complete their service for them, right? So they could focus on those IT sides and then bring us in when we were specialized and it was needed. And it was the boots on the ground, the go team, like get ready to go for those incidents. And, it's kind of funny. Even 5 years ago or so, the environment was quite different. A lot of IT people thought that cybersecurity was the same and they could do it and they wanted to do it. And then CIOs and different people started to get sued. And very quickly, hands went in the air. And it was like, no, cyber is very different. Cyber's separate. Like, we suddenly have a budget for this. We can do these pieces. And that's where we've got to really see the landscape change and Blue Team Alpha continue to grow and thrive.
Yeah, it's so interesting you say about budget because, anytime we sell anything to our clients, the next question is, and how are you going to secure that, right? But they don't have the budget. Like, oh, well, yeah, we can't get approval for that. I'm like, you will, as soon as you get breached, all of a sudden money will come flying at you. And it's too bad that it's such a reactive situation. So let's talk a little bit about how Blue Team Alpha differentiates itself from, there's a lot of crowded space there in cybersecurity of people saying we do this, we do pen tests, or we do SOC or SIEM. So how do you guys differentiate from that?
Yeah. Alicia, would you like me to start with that?
Yeah, you start. And then I have a point too, I think here.
Okay, awesome. So how we feel we differentiate, we really focus on the incident response side of it. So unfortunately, we do come in a lot on people's worst days. And that sucks. That gets hard on you as a person. For the companies, it's really hard, especially when you knew that you could have helped them before. Sometimes some are on, some things like a 0 day, you can't protect that. No matter what you do, you can't prevent it. So as you mentioned, it is the matter of when, not if something is going to happen.
Right.
But because we live and breathe incident management and incident response, I think that makes a big difference with us because we don't just go in for an incident to go set you back up. We actually care about your business genuinely. We need to know, do you have payroll coming up? Are you in HIP, like in HIPAA? Are you in healthcare? are you a methadone clinic potentially that needs to release drugs or medicines out to your people? Every business is so different. And because we go into every different industry and every business, we need to know that. We need to have the right questions to be able to ask. And so we genuinely go in with a lot of compassion, understanding what that looks like. And that it's not just a breach, after this happens, we understand that you now have media that is going to come your way. It's the business continuity that's coming your direction. It's explaining to your employees as well as your customers what just happened. It's also the fear, especially these smaller businesses, of something that you worked your whole life for could go down. I think 60% of companies don't get to recover from these, especially when they aren't prepared from breaches. So we live and breathe that. And I think, we genuinely care about it and care about the people, and we stay in contact with these people afterwards too. It makes a big difference. But then because that environment is changing every single day, right? Like we can see one thing yesterday and today it's a completely different environment that we're going back into, and we're able to stay on top of it. But our team has a lot of passion towards actually staying on top of it and preventing these, and defending and protecting America. And so we use all of those things that we learn every single time within our proactive services and everything else. So we get to do what the threat actors are doing to go protect you as we see it. We put that into our vCISO services. We put that into our pen tests. We put that into phishing campaigns. Like, we see it live, and then we get to go and protect our customers with what we see.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Alicia.
That's huge. I mean, we're not just reading articles on LinkedIn about how it happened. We're seeing it day to day. I think another point to this too is there's not really a competitive mindset that Blue Team Alpha has. Our mission is to defend America's critical infrastructure, and so we're partnering with other cybersecurity companies to be their incident response firm or offer vCISO services or whatever it might be, any gaps that they might have in their services. So I think that's another big point too, is just that we don't have that competitive mindset. We have the collaborative mindset. Yeah, I think that's really huge. That sets us apart, I think, from what I've seen, and especially beyond like the front lines with our partners.
Yeah, for sure. And that's what really attracted us to you guys, and learning more about you and being comfortable bringing you into our clients is because you care about them as much as we do. And that's so important. I want to bring, service providers into my customers that are going to take care of them and treat them like I do.
Yeah. Well, and that's huge too, because it builds the trust that you already have with them too. And that's something that's really important to me is if there is an incident, that trust is sometimes up in the air. It's hard to keep that when something is going wrong. And so we're working with our partners to make sure that trust is still there. And for sure. Yeah,
for sure. Alicia, what's a recent accomplishment or project that Blue Team Alpha that you're really proud of?
Good question. There was something recently with a large company that had a security provider in place. And we had worked with them over a series of a couple of months to this was all proactive, I should say. Usually incident response is not over a series of a couple of months, but this proactive service, we were trying to scope with them. We were learning about their company, really getting deep in what they do and what they need as a company, and put together a very scalable, comprehensive solution over 36 months to build out their cybersecurity practice. So we kind of heard that they needed to start small, and they needed to just start with a couple of areas. And so we built it out over those 36 months to grow and expand. So at the end of the 3 years, they were, no one is fully secure, but they were as secure as possible at the end of the 3 years. So just working with them, I think that was a big portion of that.
I think, again, it's coming from the point of evolving. The bad actors are evolving too. And it's just a huge threat, right? Yeah. And what they know today, tomorrow could be something totally different. And there's so many avenues that they're coming at companies, whether it's ransomware or hacking. So what are some of the biggest cybersecurity threats that organizations face today, especially small to mid-size? And I'll throw that at you, Camille.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, the list is never ending by any means because something is always coming its way. The biggest thing that we talk about often is humans. Like it's underestimated how much humans, if you employ a human, you are a human
Yeah.
who are at risk, right? That is what it is. Human error is going to exist and this stuff keeps evolving in general. So I think human error is really big. That also goes with phishing, right? All of the phishing attempts that come out that people constantly see as AI is getting better and more advanced. Also, the phishing attempts get better. To go with with what Alicia was just talking about, was one of those accomplishments within that plan that we created. Although they did secure their cyber resilience, you kind of have to know what that baseline is, right? You have to find it out.
Yeah.
Our team from a proactive side, they called and they can literally clone the voice of the CEO and ask for something now. That's how evolved this stuff is getting. And we hear it and it is scary. And you start to question, even in the industry, would I fall for this? Would I be able to fall for this? And so I think that that's pretty big. A lot of companies also go with a lot of uncertainty, right? They just have too much uncertainty of what should I do to protect it? Or should I do this first? I only have this much money. What direction should I do? No, we can figure it out. And they don't look at the experts to actually help guide them to trust to take those into play.
Mm.
I think another piece to it that isn't talked about enough is, we talk about phishing, we talk about ransom, but once it happens and once you're breached, and there's always different levels of breaches too, right? It's the data leaks that are becoming so big now too. So when you get ransomware, they're not just looking at the encryption any longer just to get the money for payments, right? It's actually your data leakage that is a big piece to it. Other you have to pay, oh, you can't just rebuild your systems any longer. You can't just go use your air-gapped backups because they want to and they threaten to leak that data that is there. And then again, that impacts their company, that impacts cost-wise. It can go into a lot of legal battles, especially depending on what industry they're in. So that's, the data leakage has been a lot bigger of a conversation for us as the time has evolved.
Yeah, I mean it's amazing to me how that you talk about humans that can be one of the biggest threats. And I think that what is underestimated from, a business owner or a leadership in a small business is how much you need to communicate with your staff to say,
Mhm.
I won't ever send you an email asking for gift cards. I would never do that. If I don't come to your desk and talk to you about it, then it's not me.
Mhm.
And I think that people underestimate that once a month, send your employees a note saying, don't do this, look for this. And what we do is we kind of put it in practice to say, because they are so good. I mean, they look like they're coming from me,
Mm.
but there's telltale signs and you've got to train people to look for those. And then if you're not sure, you send it to our help desk and let them say, is this real or not?
Mhm.
And that's kind of our first line of defense is don't,
Yeah.
don't fall for it. Send it to IT and then they can tell us if no, this one's real. You
Yeah.
can reach out to them.
Just ask. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Just
Yeah.
ask or whoever it is, call them.
Mm.
If it's somebody, you can call them and say, "Hey, did you just send me an email asking for something because there's a problem?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
you know. So
I think it's important also for leaders and IT and everybody to understand too that you have to have a culture where that is encouraged
Mm.
and that, when you are doing monthly phishing tests with your employees and they click it, that they aren't shamed or made to feel bad for it, that you're actually using it for a learning environment to actually learn, train, and then teach them from it. I think that that's really important too, that the culture is there for it to be something that you learn from.
yeah, they're definitely the threats are evolving daily. But do you have any thoughts of, the next 3 to 5 years? Where do you see them heading? Do you have any thoughts on that?
We do, especially with AI coming into play so much, right? Like I said, every day is a little different. We now have like ransomware as a service. They can deploy it that way, which is crazy to see. Like threat actors have P&Ls now. It's a really
Yeah,
evolving, consistent
it's a
industry.
business.
Mhm.
It is. It is. you try to stay ahead of it, but you have to keep an open mind for it too. And so, we talk a lot about the AI side to it because we've really embraced AI and we encourage embracing AI, right? Like you can use it for good. At the same time, as good as we can use it, it can be weaponized for bad, right? And so it it's not going to help for companies to necessarily be scared and run away from it. It's more about being proactive and like creating policies that can go around it for safety of what you're putting into it, how you're protecting your companies. I think that that's kind of a shift that we are seeing a little bit more, as well as the shift, as I was mentioning about like the data leakage. We do probably expect to see a little bit more of this to continue to go where it's not as much encrypting for disruption. It's more for extortion is likely what we're about to see as it evolves. And it doesn't mean that one's going to go away over the other, but that is kind of what we're foreseeing coming forward. And then again, the AI phishing pieces, if you're not, we've encouraged, create learning spaces within the AI platforms, depending on what you do your research. But also, there's industries coming out to protect that too, so that wherever you do house all that information to like supplement your people, that we can protect that just the same so that all your trade secrets and, data leakage is not out there at the same time too.
Yeah, for sure. And I remember one incident that happened with a service provider. Talk about it being a business. The person who hacked them required a ransom, and then they offered their service to let them teach them how not to have it happen again. And it was like, is that real? That sounded like what? But this is what they're doing is they're going, let me show you how to avoid this. Let me show you how I got in. Let me show you how this. And you just think this can't be real, but this is.
They have a sales quota. It's like it's like a sales position.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the new organized crime, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. We have our CISO is amazing, and he talks often just about how cyber isn't talked about enough, and it's getting better. Like conversations like this are so important for people to understand because you can't think, "Ooh, thank gosh it didn't happen to me." It can happen.
It's going to happen to you.
Yeah.
All of us.
You can do everything under the sun that you can do to prevent it as possible. But again, when a 0-day hits or your vendors are there, like supply chain attacks are really coming into play too, where you have all these people in your environment that you think you have, and one of their people got something happened within there, and that's how you get breached. So everything that you do, it can still be bypassed. You just try to prevent and be prepared for when it does happen.
Yeah, what great conversation. If you're loving this kind of insight, be sure to subscribe to Symplicity Conversations on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform. We've got more episodes ahead and with visionaries who are shaping what's next in storytelling, leadership, and innovation. I don't want you to miss them because these are amazing. You're going to get real actionable insights. So let's talk about, from your experience, what's the most common mistake or oversight a company makes when it comes to cybersecurity? And I'll throw that one at you, Alicia.
I think the first thing is that the overconfidence portion of it is just not thinking that it will ever happen to you. I still like to say if it happens to you because I, knock on wood, don't want to put it out in the atmosphere that it will, but you are right. It is very likely that it's going to happen to every company. But that overconfidence, I think, is the biggest portion here. As Camille had said, it's often human error, whether it's through your employees or yourself. It can or
click on something.
Exactly. I think that's usually what it comes down to.
Well, I think I heard that story where they'll throw a bunch of flash drives in a grocery store parking lot, and then people pick those up. Oh, let me see if this is a 2 gig or.
Can you imagine?
And you put it in, and that's the virus.
Yeah,
but like don't do that if
that's
don't.
a large human error.
Yeah, human error. Yeah,
that used to be a marketing trick that they used at events that we used to go to. They would throw them on the ground, and then when you plugged it in, they'd be like, "We told you not to do this. We've trained you not to do this." And it would be like their marketing one.
Yeah,
funny.
It's funny from what Alicia said too, which underestimating the humans. It's gotten better, but I would say a couple years ago, the C-suite was probably the biggest offenders at clicking the links. They were by far usually the ones clicking the links over somebody else.
It's been a lot of work for
Yeah.
people in my company. Don't do it, and I don't anymore. I think.
Yep.
I think. Are ransomware and phishing attacks still the top concerns, or are other threats kind of gaining traction?
Yeah, there's still major threats. Like Alicia was saying, the human error, it's not usually some crazy exploit that comes in necessarily. It's usually somebody that clicks something, and
Mhm.
that's the phishing that leads to the ransomware. But as I mentioned too, it's that there's a big rise in that supply chain attack section too,
Mm.
where whether it's somebody that you have within your system, they get into their system, they tunnel into yours, that's a pretty big thing that you're seeing. That's also why you see a big push for the CMMC to be implemented now.
Mhm.
It's a similar concept, right? When NIST came out, it's just protecting everybody as much as possible. Now, we would all wish that everybody had an unlimited budget to actually be able to do this, but at least we can take steps and help people do it. So that's a pretty big one. And then, as mentioned before, we just really are seeing that data leakage piece also going to be pretty big.
And it is really expensive. I mean, we pay a pretty penny as a small company to
Mhm.
to to a company, and to have the different products protect us. And we are looking at CMMC as well
Yeah.
because of our government contracting practice. But it's not cheap, but it's a lot less expensive than a breach and having,
Yep.
so it's like, where do you outweigh that? And, to have a pen test. I mean, I feel like some companies say, once every couple of years. I feel like at minimum once a year, if not
Absolutely.
multiple times a year, because, of things changing. So let's talk a little bit about when a company does reach out to Blue Team Alpha. Um, you know, do they typically come after a breach or before? Is it starting to become more proactive?
So I've been at Blue Team Alpha for a year now, and I've had, would say, 50% revenue wise comes from incident response, but 50% revenue comes from the proactive services too. But on a day-to-day basis, I'm talking with people more so on the proactive side of things.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, the people that we have come in through incidents, most of the time they become lifelong customers, and
Right.
they are then using our proactive services and taking it more seriously at that point. But really on a day-to-day basis, myself, I see more on the proactive, but it does happen quite a lot that people are coming
So
through incidents.
you were talking with me about your proactive service.
Yeah.
Can you expand on that? Because that sounded like a real differentiator that that people can purchase services
Yeah.
and kind of be in front of that. So
Yeah.
talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So when I say proactive, I think I really just mean everything outside of incidents. And
Right.
Camille, you can correct me if I have the wrong terminology there, but really just talking about the offensive services, which is the red teaming that Camille was talking about, where it's penetration testing. We're pretending to be the bad guys, pretending to get into the environment. So their services, the offensive services. We have the SOC services, which is most people know about that as well.
Mhm.
That's on the proactive side, of course. And then the advisory services. So all of the VC, the person acting as our virtual chief information security officer for companies, and then the advisory, which would be like how folks are getting NIST certified or CMMC certified, SOC 2 certified. So there's kind of the few different sections there of the proactive services.
Got it.
Yeah. I think, we were just talking about it yesterday with a brokerage too, and you kind of look at it as stairs, right? That you're walking up, and you need to hit each of those pieces to actually, just be more mature in your mindset of where the cybersecurity protection is for your company, right? And so it's not as much of a line item. So it's interesting too, though. Alicia will have many calls with or customers coming in, and it's not in the budget this year. That's oftentimes what we hear, right? It's not in the budget this year, so we figure it out. But then when they call us a month later and it's because they're breached, that hurts us when we're like, but it was such a small thing we could have done to help you and protect you. And we get it, but here we are. And then so a lot of our business is the reactive side. And we are thankful, again, unfortunately, you see us usually on your company's worst day of having to bring us in that sense. But then it turns into the actual prep work for when it does happen and keeping them. We do tabletops all the time too, because again, you want the people who are actually doing it day to day and being able to put this back into practice. And we push tabletops a lot and how important it is because it's usually the people, again, in the C-suite that have to be prepared, or in executive leadership that have to be prepared for when these things happen and stay calm and know who to call, know what to do, know where to go. Those are kind of the things that we really try to be try to lay out there with them too. And so a lot of what we have is we use a skill bridge program. On top of, we have about 70% of our employees are actually, ex-military or have came from it, and they've learned a lot, from there. And so we use the skill bridge program. The reason I bring it up is because they see threats in so many different avenues, not just in cybersecurity, right? But the program is when it's people getting ready. It's their last, roughly 180 days, getting ready to transition out of the military into the civilian world. And we're able to show them how that looks, and they get to have hands-on. So I mentioned that because of the passion that they have behind it of wanting to protect America, even outside of, after they've served it, their time there too. So we're very passionate about all of the proactive services, but we do see most of the, 50% in the reactive. And then it's always interesting how near the end of that engagement, there's more budget available suddenly. There's suddenly more that we can do with them.
Yeah, most definitely. It is a culture, I think, and it's a mindset shift, and unless they've been breached in the past,
Yeah.
they don't value. And so I think it's a big role for us to help train that staff and having a security culture. Whether it's training employees, whether it's being proactive and having the leadership of the company create the right budget, the appropriate budget, I think it's an educational play for sure.
Yeah, we noticed too that we seem to get the best impact. Nobody wants to hear what they're doing wrong, right? Nobody wants to hear that. We get the best impact when we get to tell the real life stories that we see. We call them war stories, or case studies, and we post them so often because every time that we go through a breach with a company, they always say that they wish that they could protect somebody else from it. And unfortunately, they can't. They have to stay anonymous because the moment that they start speaking out really about it, right, they open up to lawsuits. So everything that we do is super confidential. And that's why we do a lot of, we'll put manufacturing, or we keep it pretty broad so that we can get that out. But the more that we're able to talk about what happened to others, it seems to open up eyes a lot more.
Yeah, and we'll definitely include some of your stories on the episode and links and stuff, because I think it's so important to push that out there to get people thinking about, ooh, what is our strategy? Are we a security culture place? Yeah. But let's talk about leadership philosophy. So what is your leadership's philosophy when it comes to building and sustaining a cybersecurity team?
Yeah, we, it was interesting. I was talking to our VP of Services, Joseph Wright, earlier today about this also, because we're in cyber. So we live it, but we have the other side of the business too, that is like our marketing team that, isn't usually coming in aware of all the cyber pieces. Sales is often learning. Again, sometimes with our skill bitch program, we're bringing people in to understand like the nuances that they get to see the day to day once they come into it, but it's not forgetting that you have to train everybody. And often in cyber too, I don't know how many podcasts you've listened to where sometimes the words that are being said, you're sitting there like, I'm going to Google every acronym because I heard 3 words that was just said. So it's making it relatable is important to us also. Because again, we don't want the companies that we go into to have to be the experts in it. We're there calm. We're there for it. And so that is our philosophy, though, is hiring the people that are the calm in the storm. Because we're usually in the storm pretty much every day, or prepping for the storm and prepping the companies for the storm. So it's a lot of that compassion and integrity that we keep talking. It's a true duty that we have to consistently do it. But again, we internally too, we see this stuff every day. We have chats that are happening about the threats that are out there all the time being sent, the things that are left open. And it's a very learning culture that we continue to because of how evolving the environment is all the time. believe, I don't think that I know, and Alicia, you can jump in here, but I don't think I could tell you one person in the company that doesn't live our core values of what we have and genuinely care about protecting all of our employees and learning, like knowing that something new is coming every day.
Yeah. I joke about this. I always say it's not something we just put in our job descriptions. Like, it's something where, like, we talk about it every time. Like, integrity, I think, is brought up. Like, that word is brought up on every single call that I have with customers, with partners, internally, whatever it might be. I hear that probably 20 times a day. So it's really, we talk about it, and not only talk about it, but we do it too.
Well, I think the important thing for business owners out there, do they have a security plan? And then do they have their resource identified?
Yeah.
Right? It's almost like if you have a tornado come through or a hurricane come through, you know your insurance agent, you know your policy, and you know, here's what I do when I execute. But they don't think about security. They've got this company that they've worked so hard to build, and it can be taken down. You said 60% of businesses don't survive an attack of some sort. So is it really, I mean, maybe there's budget now.
Yeah.
Because, do you want your business to go away? Do you want your employees to not have a job tomorrow?
Yeah.
Because that's the reality.
There's a lot of fear mongering out there on security, but it's because it's true. Like, it's we see it every day. We don't need to fear monger, but
right.
It is really true. All of these statistics and
right.
When it happens to people, that's when they believe it.
Yeah. Well, I think it's just, if you know somebody that owns a business, if you're listening and you know somebody that owns a business, just please tell them.
Yeah.
Do you have a security plan? And who would you call if you were breached? If you can say, I know those two answers, yes, I have a plan, and yes, I know who I'm going to call, then okay. But, if it's been a couple of years and you don't know how they're evolving, do you have the right service provider that you can count on?
Yeah.
Look at how many times people in the military practice and train before they actually go out and use their skills. And sometimes they never use those skills. They practice and practice and practice, and maybe they don't go off to war, but it's like they practice all the time. So I think that's bringing those individuals into security companies. They're used to that. They're ready.
Absolutely.
So when when it's go time, you don't have to train anybody. They're trained.
Yeah, it's that culture again of it's making sure that nobody thinks, well, not my job, because it's everybody's job. From the marketing, from any aspect of the business, everybody is part of the cybersecurity structure and maturity of a company. Absolutely.
I had one company one time when I asked them about security, and they said, oh yeah, we're all set. We've got cybersecurity insurance.
Yep.
And I went, you're kind of joking. Because, I feel like cybersecurity is something that you have to pay, but it really doesn't work.
Yeah.
It's not going to cover your reputation. It's not going to cover, loss of business. Think about when somebody's down trying to get things back up, like you've got employees sitting there. And then, I had one vendor that was breached, and, I ended up paying a very large sum to my client just as a trust, like we kind of three-legged stool, like we all identified what was the hit. And so a couple of us, chipped in, and I said, I'll waive commissions for 6 months, which was a really big deal, but it was a bigger deal that the customers still trust us, And so, it was like, okay, well, if we get reimbursement from the cybersecurity insurance, we'll reimburse you. Yeah. That never came. Never reimbursed. But my customer was worth that. I knew that, gravy if we get the money back, but I wanted my customer to know that I had skin in the game too.
Well,
so
good for you. I think that's such a huge thing in this space is sometimes it's hard to put your ego aside and even just like start having the cybersecurity conversation. I always tell people on the first call, I'm like, I'm so happy you're here. Like, this is the best step you could have taken, is just having a conversation about this. Like, then at that point that they're taking it seriously. They know they need something.
Yeah.
That's
and figure out
best
where
place to
they
be.
are on the journey.
Yeah.
Are they in an ugly spot? Are they in a good spot? Are they could be better?
And we always talk about it being so expensive, and it sounds like this huge budget line item, but it can start super affordable.
Yeah.
And once you have something in place, we see tiers. So you had the first tier in place, and it's incredibly affordable. That person then can work with C-suite, can work with president, owner, CEO, and just do the education for you and
opening up more budget.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And that is part of the job, is to work with them on the budget too. So it's a good place to start.
Yeah.
It is. They're the advocate. Like, our VCSOs are your advocate. You have a roadmap that you want, and you can see it. We understand that money doesn't grow on trees, right? We get it, but we can make that plan with you that you think makes the most sense to protect your business, to protect your people, kind of all of that.
Yeah. And we're always going to recommend the full-blown solution, right? Because we don't want them to get hacked. We don't want anything to happen. But we know that the full-blown solution is not for everyone. We can start small.
Well, and again, figuring out where you are, how many, I saw image, like a pyramid, and you needed these things at the bottom. Absolutely. And then the higher you got up on the pyramid was like nice to haves, right?
Yeah.
And rarely does somebody fully green on all of it. You got red spots that you got to fill in, right?
And as you go up too, it's more specialized depending on the industry that you're into.
For sure.
Kind of just depends.
So let's talk about, go ahead.
Well, I would say one of my favorite analogies that I got that I still use is, let's say you were going, like, I don't know how to canoe. I could never really done it, right? But I go and I purchase a canoe because I want to get into it. And I leave with my canoe and I go to, like, get on the water. Well, I realize, wait, how am I supposed to bring this canoe with me? I guess I don't have anything to put it on my car. Okay, so I go back and I have to get that, right? But now I put it in the water. I don't have an oar. I don't have a way to do it. I don't have a life jacket because I'm not the expert. I didn't know about it. And I would have trusted that salesperson to be there or guide me and teach me and tell me what I don't know. Yeah. And that analogy is really stuck with me, I think, in kind of any industry.
The first step is knowing that you want to canoe. Yeah. I think that's a good part of the analogy there.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. As we wrap up here, let's talk about, what does success look like for Blue Team Alpha over the next 3 to 5 years?
Good question. Camille?
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to. For us, we want to defend America. That's important to us, honestly. That is one of our biggest passions, is being that go-to call that we get, because we know us, right? We know our passion. We know our integrity. We know how much we genuinely care about companies getting back up, being protected, and not just the company's success. We care about the people that work at the companies too. The people that are up with us working all night long. Our team gets excited being there and fighting these guys off, and again, just protecting. So we want to be America's blue team. That is success for us.
Wow, that's cool. And I think from my perspective, I want customers to know that there's really good options out there, that the good guys are out there. And you, just because somebody has cybersecurity in their name doesn't mean they're really good at what they do. It's like, I kind of equate it to, I want the doctor or the dentist that got the A's, not the C minuses or the D pluses, right? Because there's a whole scope of that, and same with cybersecurity. There's some different philosophies as you get under there of how do you move somebody in, from reactive to proactive, and to be a healthy company that when you get breached, that you can handle it, that it's going to get shut down quickly, and that you're going to be in front of it, because again, it's still going to happen, right?
Absolutely. You want the doctor or dentist too, or whatever that is, doing that continued education and is continuing to practice what they preached. Yeah, I think, and that's a big portion of it. Not someone who went to school 30 years ago and hasn't done anything since. So exactly, I think that's a big part of what we do.
Yeah,
I think so too. I think a big win here is just this conversation alone. We want the conversations to happen. That's free, right? That stuff is free. And we want to be part of those conversations to help people with whatever we can for knowledge.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And so I'll throw one question that you can both answer. What's your top advice for companies that want to take the first meaningful step towards cybersecurity?
I think the first step is having that conversation and just talking to people that you already trust and what they're doing and how they're doing it, and then having that first conversation. That's the first step.
Yeah. Love it.
Yeah, I think so too. I think don't be intimidated by everything that is in the industry and all the buzzwords that you hear and all the terms. And know that, it's not a department's responsibility. It's the company, it's everybody in the company, and everybody has to work pretty locked arms, hand in hand to move forward. And as long as that mindset and those conversations start, you're on the right path.
Camille, I think it was so crucial what you just said. It's not just the IT department's responsibility to secure the company.
Yeah.
It's everybody's responsibility, top down, right?
Yep.
Wow, that's cool. Well, I'm so thrilled to have you guys here today. I'm really proud of Blue
Yeah,
Team
this is
Alpha and being able to bring you guys to our clients. We'll make sure to get the listeners the information on our landing page for you guys and get some of those stories out, because I think stories resonate with people in how they can help. And if we can save one company from breach or have them think about getting a security plan, then we've succeeded today, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
We
Well,
have.
thank you so much for joining me. And thanks for tuning into Symplicity Conversations. Go to thesimplepodcast.com for more information and follow us on LinkedIn for the latest updates. If today's conversation sparked something for you, be sure to leave a review, share the episode with someone in your network, and definitely ask those that you know, do you have a security plan? We'll see you next time.